His breath was hot against my neck, his hands gripping my hips as if he had waited his whole life for that moment. My body betrayed every promise I had made when I said my vows. I felt his lips travel down my shoulder, his weight pressing me into the mattress of a hotel bed I should never have been in. The curtains were drawn tight, the room smelled of cologne and whiskey, and in that instant, nothing else mattered. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I knew it was my husband. I ignored it. Instead, I tilted my head back, giving myself fully to the man who was not mine. The pleasure was sharp, intoxicating, and wrong in every possible way. And yet, I could not stop. That was the first time I cheated on my husband. The first time I crossed the line. But it was not the last. Before I go any further, let me pause for just a second. To my loyal subscribers, I want to thank you deeply for standing by this channel. To my new viewers and those who are returning but have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it serves as the fuel and energy that keeps powering this channel. Please share your thoughts in the comments as soon as you hear this story. I truly want to hear what you think. Now, let me take you back. My name is Rachel. I am 34 years old, born and raised in a small town in Ohio but now living in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I married my husband, Mark, when I was 25. He is a good man. He works hard, provides, and never once raised his voice at me in a way that made me feel unsafe. To the outside world, we are the picture of stability, a nice home, 2 children, Sunday barbecues with neighbors, holiday cards with smiling faces. But behind that perfect picture, my heart was starving. Mark loved me, but his love was quiet, routine, predictable. After 10 years of marriage, our intimacy was scheduled, mechanical, stripped of fire. I missed the feeling of being desired, of being wanted like a man could not breathe without me. That emptiness was the seed of my betrayal. The first man who noticed me outside of my marriage was Tyler, a colleague from work. He was 40, divorced, and carried himself with the kind of confidence that filled the room. He complimented my dresses, lingered when he leaned over to help me with documents, and laughed at everything I said. At first, I brushed it off. But the more attention he gave me, the more alive I felt. One late evening, after a long day at the office, Tyler offered me a ride home. The rain poured outside, and when I stepped into his car, the silence between us was charged. By the time we reached the hotel parking lot near the highway, neither of us could pretend anymore. I followed him inside. The first kiss was desperate, messy, full of heat. His hands roamed as if he had been starving for me. I knew it was wrong, but I let it happen. I let his body take mine in a way that reminded me of something I had forgotten, wild passion. When it was over, I lay there trembling, half from guilt, half from desire, staring at the ceiling and wondering what I had just done. When I returned home that night, Mark was asleep. I slipped into bed beside him, my skin still smelling faintly of another man. My heart pounded, terrified he would wake and know. But he never stirred. He kissed me good morning the next day as if nothing had changed, but I knew everything had. The first betrayal should have been the last. I should have stopped. I should have confessed, begged for forgiveness, ended it before it spread like wildfire. But instead, that taste of danger opened a door I could not close. The thrill became addictive. A week later, I was in Tyler's arms again. His words fueled me, how beautiful I was, how irresistible I had become to him. The more I heard it, the more I craved it. At work, my phone would buzz with his messages. My stomach would twist in excitement every time I saw his name. But Tyler was not the only one who noticed me. Around the same time, I joined a local gym. That was where I met Chris, a trainer with a body sculpted like it belonged on a magazine cover. He was younger than me, only 29, but his charm was undeniable. When he helped me with weights, his hand lingered on my back just a second too long. When he joked with me, his eyes locked onto mine in a way that made my chest heat. One late evening, after most people had left the gym, Chris asked if I wanted to grab a drink. I told myself it was innocent, just a friendly outing. But I knew better. We ended up at his apartment instead. The air was filled with the smell of sweat and aftershave. He kissed me hard, like a man with something to prove, and I melted under his touch. It was different from Tyler, rougher, hungrier, more reckless. By the time I left his apartment at 2 a.m, my body was weak, my legs shaking, and my heart pounding with a mix of shame and satisfaction. 2 men. 2 secrets. And a husband who had no idea. Each time I kissed Mark, each time I lay beside him at night, I felt the walls of lies rising higher. The guilt was real, but so was the desire. I told myself I could manage it, that as long as he did not know, I was not really hurting him. But the truth was uglier than I wanted to admit. I was becoming someone I did not even recognize. What terrified me most was how easy it became. Lies slipped from my lips with ease. I am working late. I am staying for extra training at the gym. I am catching up with a friend. Mark never questioned me. His trust was my cover, and I abused it without hesitation. What I did not know then was that each betrayal was a thread being pulled, unraveling the marriage I thought I could hold together forever. And the deeper I went, the more impossible it became to stop. By the time I realized I was juggling more than lies, I was already in too deep. Because Tyler and Chris were only the beginning. And my husband still had no idea. It started with Tyler. Then Chris. And before I even realized it, I was living a life that did not feel real. I was one woman, but I was playing 3 roles. At home, I was the faithful wife, folding laundry, cooking dinner, helping the kids with homework. At work, I was the attentive colleague who laughed at Tyler's jokes while sneaking glances that only we understood. At the gym, I was the woman who lingered after closing hours, slipping into Chris's apartment when no one was watching. Every day felt like walking on a tightrope stretched thin over a pit of fire. One wrong move, one slip, and everything would come crashing down. But the thrill kept me going. Tyler gave me validation. He made me feel sophisticated, desired from my mind as much as my body. With him, I felt like a woman who had power. Our hotel meetings became routine. He would book a room under his name, send me the number, and I would make an excuse to Mark about staying late for meetings. Inside those 4 walls, I was not a mother, not a wife, I was untamed. Chris gave me intensity. His touch was rough, his kisses fierce. He did not whisper sweet nothings, he devoured me. In his bed, I was not 34 years old with 2 kids. I was young again, reckless and wild. When he looked at me with those piercing blue eyes, I forgot about responsibility. And Mark, poor Mark. He gave me safety, stability, and the quiet love I had once begged God for. But next to the chaos I had created, his love felt almost invisible. The scariest part was how quickly I adapted to the lies. I could look him straight in the eyes and tell him I was going to yoga class when really, I was meeting Chris. I could kiss him goodnight, whisper, "I love you," and then check my phone for messages from Tyler under the sheets. There was a time I almost got caught. One Friday night, Mark suggested a spontaneous date night. He wanted to take me to a restaurant downtown. The problem was that I had already promised to meet Tyler at the hotel. My stomach twisted, but I could not say no to my husband without raising suspicion. So I told Tyler we had to meet earlier. We rushed through our time together, but I was careless. His cologne lingered on my clothes, his stubble had left faint marks on my neck. I did my best to scrub them off in the bathroom before meeting Mark, but as we sat at dinner, I could see him staring at me strangely. My heart pounded. Did he notice? Did he smell another man on me? He reached across the table, squeezed my hand, and said softly, "You look beautiful tonight." The guilt nearly suffocated me. But instead of stopping, I doubled down. It was like gambling. I kept betting more, convinced I could keep winning without being caught. Soon, I added a 3rd man into the chaos. His name was Daniel. He was an old flame from college who had reached out on social media. At first, we just caught up over coffee, talking about the years gone by. But nostalgia is dangerous. It makes you believe the past was better, that what slipped away might still be worth holding. One afternoon, when Mark thought I was running errands, Daniel and I sat in his car at a park, the windows fogged, my lips swollen from his kisses. His hands traced the outline of my thighs as he whispered how he had never forgotten me. My heart raced, not from love, but from the intoxication of being wanted by so many men at once. I was juggling 3 affairs. Sometimes, I wondered if I was insane. I would wake up in the morning, pack school lunches, kiss Mark goodbye, and then spend the afternoon tangled in someone else's sheets. The whiplash between guilt and desire left me dizzy. At night, lying next to my husband, would sometimes stare at him in the dark and think, if he only knew. The thought both terrified and thrilled me. I was playing with fire, daring the flames to catch me. But cracks were beginning to show. Chris started demanding more of my time. He hated when I canceled on him to go home to my family. "You are mine when you are here," he growled once, pinning me against the wall of his apartment. His possessiveness both excited and frightened me. Tyler became clingy, asking if I would ever leave Mark. He spoke about trips we could take together, a life where I was free from my husband. I laughed it off, but inside, I knew he was serious. Daniel, on the other hand, played the part of the sweet memory. But even he began hinting at late-night calls, wanting more of me than I could give. I was being pulled in 3 directions, and the lies were piling higher than I could control. Mark began to notice my absences. He asked why I was always so tired, why I guarded my phone so closely. I brushed him off with excuses, but his eyes lingered on me with suspicion I had never seen before. One night, he asked, "Rachel, is there something you are not telling me?" My chest tightened. For a moment, I thought it was over, that the walls were collapsing. But I smiled, leaned in, kissed him, and whispered, "I am just stressed." And he believed me. But deep down, I knew my time was running out. I was no longer in control of the game I had started. The men wanted more. My husband was growing suspicious. And my double life was cracking at the seams. Because secrets, no matter how carefully buried, always claw their way to the surface. And mine were about to explode. The walls of my secret life began to close in faster than I expected. For months, I thought I was clever enough to juggle it all. But one careless mistake, one slip of the hand, was all it took to shatter the world I had built. It was a Sunday afternoon when it happened. I was folding laundry in our bedroom while Mark was downstairs helping the kids with a school project. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Without thinking, I picked it up. It was Chris. His message was explicit, the kind of thing no husband should ever see. I quickly deleted it, but I was too late. I had not noticed Mark standing in the doorway. His face was pale, his hands clenched at his sides. His voice shook as he asked, "Who was that?" My throat went dry. I stammered something about a wrong number, but the lie was weak. He stepped forward, grabbed my phone, and scrolled through it. I had been careful, but not careful enough. Messages, hotel bookings, flirty exchanges, they were all there, hidden in corners of apps I thought he would never check. When his eyes met mine, I saw the truth sink in. He did not just know there was another man. He knew there were several. The silence between us was louder than any scream. "Finally," he said, in a voice I will never forget, "how many?" The question cut through me like glass. My lips trembled, but I could not bring myself to say the number. My silence was the answer. He put the phone down on the bed and walked out of the room. I followed him, begging, trying to explain, but there was no explanation that could undo the betrayal. He had given me his trust, his loyalty, his love. And I had traded it for moments of lust with men who did not even deserve me. That night, the house was suffocating with tension. Mark slept in the guest room. The kids were confused, asking why Daddy was mad. I tucked them into bed with a smile that felt like a mask, but inside, my chest was burning with guilt. The next day, Mark confronted me again. This time, his anger came through. He asked if it was Tyler. He asked if it was Chris. He asked if it was Daniel. My heart stopped. He knew their names. I had been reckless. I tried to deny it, but the evidence was already there. He had pieced it together. He had seen the credit card charges, the excuses that never made sense, the way I guarded my phone like a treasure chest of lies. Finally, I broke down and admitted everything. I expected him to scream, to throw things, to curse me until the walls shook. But he did not. He just stared at me with eyes so cold that I wished he had hit me instead. Because that silence, that look of utter disappointment, cut deeper than any wound. "You destroyed us," he said finally. "And for what? For men who will never love you like I did?" I could not answer. Because he was right. For weeks, the house became a battlefield of silence. He spoke to me only when necessary. Meals were eaten in silence. Nights were spent in separate rooms. The man who once adored me could no longer stand the sight of me. And then came the breaking point. One night, Mark called me downstairs after the kids had gone to sleep. His bags were packed. On the counter was an envelope with divorce papers. My heart sank as I realized what was happening. "You need to leave," he said simply. I begged. I dropped to my knees, clutching his hands, sobbing until my body shook. I promised to change, to fight for us, to cut off every man and rebuild what I had destroyed. But his face remained stone. "You already chose them," he whispered. "And now I am choosing me." He opened the door, and with tears streaming down my face, I walked out of the home we had built together. The night air was cold against my skin, but nothing compared to the chill of knowing I had lost everything. In the days that followed, I tried reaching out to the men who had been part of my downfall. Tyler had already moved on. Chris had another woman. Daniel stopped answering my calls. They had all used me, and when the thrill ended, I was disposable. The only man who had truly loved me was the one I betrayed. Now, I sit alone in a small apartment, staring at the empty walls, haunted by memories of what I destroyed with my own hands. Mark has custody of the kids. They visit me on weekends, but even their hugs feel different, like they know something is broken that can never be fixed. I thought I was chasing freedom, passion, validation. But in the end, all I found was regret. My husband is gone. My family is fractured. And I am left with the bitter taste of consequences. Because infidelity never ends with happiness. It ends with destruction. And that is the story of how I lost everything, not because my husband did not love me enough, but because I could not see that his love was already more than enough.